thank you for joining the first second call webinar for NGI Search. If you could please mute yourself and ask questions in the chat until the Q&A later, when you can also just have a conversation with us, of course. On the call, I have with me today Pierre-Yves from OW2, Nina from FundingBox, Maria also from FundingBox, Aurora from University of Murcia, and Rita, my colleague from Aarhus University, and also Olivier, who is also from OW2. So we just have a few on the call for information for the second open call for NGI Search. Let's get started then. So I'll do a short welcome, and then we talk a little bit about the scope for the second open call and specifically the topics. Aurora will help with that and present them. We'll also talk about what you can get out of the project in general, and then Nina will take over and talk about some of the rules or the rules for applying for the second open call. And the whole thing will be done within an hour. And we'll hopefully have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end as well. So if you're not familiar with NGI, I highly recommend that you go to ngi.eu and have a look at the entire ecosystem of activities that are ongoing there. You have a number of projects that have already completed, projects that are in parallel running to NGI Search, as well as projects that will start up in the future. There's a number of projects that are support actions, helping projects like NGI Search being more efficient and providing better services to the sub-grantees or the sub-projects that will be funded through projects like NGI Search. And you can find all of this information there, as well as lots of blog posts and other activities and other projects, even sort of categorized into a map, as well as you can find the specific open source projects that have been funded already and the components that have been developed in the catalog on this website. We've, most of us in the call have actually been also part of a previous project called NGI Pointer. This is our reference point. And in this project, we funded 36 different projects, and we had very good outcomes in this. You can see examples on the website, as well as here is a summary of them, where we funded a wide variety of internet architecture projects. So these are more protocols and communication paradigms, as well as some sort of basic internet applications, such as, for instance, browsers or email clients and so on. So it was our first try into this, and we did, I think, a fairly good job, or very good job with the sub-grant projects. We got good feedback there, and learned how to interact in an efficient way together with these projects. And we're taking this, of course, into NGI Search now. So Search is, again, one of the projects that is funded by the European Commission, and we are taking the funding from the European Commission and turning 80% of that funding, so in this case 6.8 million euros, over into 5 open calls, with projects funded between 50 to 150,000 euros per open call project. You can see our website here. And we've started in September last year, and we will run until August 2025. And in this time, we will launch 5 open calls. This is now the second open call, where we're looking for talented researchers, innovators, activists working in search and discovery within a human-centric context. So very pertinent topics are, for instance, now these topics around large language models and how they're integrated into search features and search engines in general, and what that means, for instance, for data collection, for privacy and rights, how we can trust the information that comes out of them, and so on, as just some of those examples. We're looking at both domain-specific topics, so topics that, for instance, address specific domains in healthcare or in food or technology, but also we want to have generic enablers that enable search, discovery, and indexing technologies in general. But we'll get to the specific topics a little bit later. If you are selected in an open call, you will enter into a support and mentoring program. So you will get a dedicated mentor that will walk you through a 12-month custom program where you can get access to 10 value-added services, which range from technology advice to some open source advice to business mentoring and so on. And you can customly select those. In general, we do sort of 3 checkpoints with the projects where we pay out also then the various funding amounts that we set for each one of those checkpoints. But we're trying to make that as low friction as possible so that you can focus on your work and delivering value to the community that you're engaging with. We also integrate you into the NGI community overall. There have been over 700, I think now 800 different projects being funded, mainly from grassroots ideas, and connect you into this community, in particular our sister RIA, which is working on a large open web index that will also be encouraging, for instance, search discovery and indexing technology in general. And we hope that we will also interact with these projects very well. Finally, we also in NGI Search looking for national, regional, international initiatives that provide synergies on this level, trying to promote the idea of human-centric context in the NGI, also in the national, regional, international context. Here at the bottom, we have the 5 organizations that are involved in NGI Search. Aarhus University is leading the consortium. We have FundingBox that is mainly dealing with the open call mechanisms and guiding us through that process. Linknovate, which helps us find interesting participants that can apply for open calls and also help us with the mentoring, of course. We have University of Murcia that is mainly involved in leading the mentoring activities, and OW2, who is also helping with the mentoring, of course, as well as dissemination activities and maintaining, for example, our website and some of the infrastructural elements for the project as well. So I hope the sound was better now, Pierre, Yves, good. So I would like to now hand over to Aurora, who will talk us through the topics of the second open call, which is slightly different to the first open call. So we have a bit more of an effort now moving into research topics, we would call them, but that doesn't limit now to researchers. We also invite, of course, innovators and activists to participate to the open calls as well. So Aurora, would you please?
Thank you, Mirko. So can you go to the next slide, please? As Mirko anticipated, I'm going to introduce you the topics of the second open call. You can see them listed here. And yeah, they are more fundamental than in the previous one. So we have a stronger research focus. We will go one by one in a second, but let me highlight also that all the topics will admit the transversal interest of green technologies, motivated by the fact that the storage of data and the training of the large models are also are nowadays consuming a lot of energy, and therefore we would like to see techniques to reduce data requirements and the complexity of the models in all the topics in general. Yeah, can you go to the next slide, please? So the first topic is power cognitive search by reinforcement learning. Cognitive search is a type of search technology that uses artificial intelligence to understand and interpret human language so that we can provide more relevant and more accurate search results. Cognitive search aims to mimic the way that humans search for information using context and intend to provide more meaningful and personalized results. So we are looking forward to the development of mechanisms, including but not restricted to self-learning, pattern recognition, NLP, all of them contributing to a system able to learn from the interactions, how to choose the relevant data, the relevant algorithms, and how to make the search in general more relevant For example, a search engine could use reinforcement learning to optimize its ranking algorithm based on user behavior and feedback, so that the search results accuracy is more relevant and improved. Next slide, please. The next topic is machine-based data. Basically, everything that comes from Internet of Things and its derivatives. So with the expansion of the deployments of the Internet of Things, we are seeing a huge amounts of data coming from sensors, actuators, crowd sensing, and we need to make sense out of all this data. Finding and accessing such big volumes is becoming a challenge, and also finding and accessing it, the data that it's high quality and that the one that we need for our problems. Most of the current Internet of Things systems rely on metadata for searching and discovering, and have limited means to search for the patterns within the streams. So in this sense, we need to create search and discovery mechanisms that are based on algorithms that are able to adapt to the characteristics of the Internet of Things, basically that they are distributed in a spatial region, therefore they account for geospatial information, and they are also collected normally in the forms either of events or of time series. So all this kind of algorithms are interesting for us. Can you go to the next slide, please? Next topic is artificial intelligence-based taxonomies. Taxonomies are machine interpretable semantics, and they provide valuable knowledge for many applications, for example, for product recommendations, for enhancing query understanding. So given that, again, we are experiencing a fast-growing volume of web content, the existing taxonomies will fail to capture the emerging knowledge and cannot satisfy user-specific interests. So in that sense, we encourage research about the automatic and dynamic creation and expansion of taxonomies using AI techniques that can model interdependency among new concepts. Next, please. The next topic is network analysis and knowledge graphs. So complex network analysis can be linked to semantic modeling, in the sense that the outcome of network analysis is an interlinked network of distributed resources that can be queried. And these networks are known as knowledge graphs, and they can be used to gain insights or derive conclusions about the domain we are currently describing with this network. So formal semantics for property graphs, including similarity-based query relaxation, shape induction, expressive graph neural networks, this can be part of this challenge. Also, more general properties such as scalability, the analysis of the quality of the induced models, diversity, and so on are challenges that that knowledge graphs account for. So we are interested about that. Next, please. Then we thought about this challenge about AI-based search tools and content generators, because these tools that are nowadays assisting us in performing different tasks that can be repetitive or that can be related to generating code, generating the text answers. I'm talking about ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot. These tools are nowadays gaining popularity, and the use of its use raised concerns about progress, critical analysis, and bias in general. Other examples are related to writing tools, art generators. So therefore, we are looking for projects that will work on the evaluation of this of the privacy of the research gaps concerning the accuracy of answers and the performance of these kind of tools, including vulnerability and qualitative improvement of the results. Next, please. The next topic is ethics in search and discovery. So this revolution that we are experiencing and that we're talking about actually in search and discovery, together with the AI improvements, opens up a very exciting plethora of possibilities, services, tools, prospects in general. But we've seen also that there are some ethical and social concerns that need to be accounted for and taken into consideration. So to ensure that the algorithms do not compromise fundamental rights such as privacy, data confidentiality, gender and minority equality, we need some kinds of ethical frameworks that are analyzing these kind of problems. So we look for solutions that are aligned with the European Commission's report named Ethics Guidelines for Trustworthy AI. And this report provides a clear way to evaluate the responsible development of AI systems, and we look for the application to discovery and search particularly. So any kind of tool that can deal with misinformation, with fake news, that can provide data literacy, and that can address the opacity of the whole process are encouraged. More concretely, debiasing mechanisms, for example, like data augmentation, resampling, promoting gender tagging, minority tagging, bias fine-tuning are examples towards the development of responsible and explainable AI in ethical terms. And next topic, please. And finally, in order not to leave anything interesting behind, we welcome, in general, new ways of discovering and accessing information. Any mechanism that leverage all relevant knowledge from improving the processes and the services for search and discovery are welcome for their evaluation, and yeah, we welcome this kind of projects.
Thank you, Aurora. So that leads us back into just very briefly talking about benefits. So I'm already mentioned that projects that get accepted, you will be part of a growing NGI community. You will be offered these 10 added value services that we'll go through in a minute. And also you can get up to 150,000 euros in equity-free funding as well. So on the added value services, we have a number of technical services, business services, and legal services, I think we call them, or something like this. We'll get there in a minute. So on the technology mentoring side and advice, Umo will lead this activity, but of course all of us will participate to this as well. You will also be able to receive a beta testing service from OW2, and this is based on a project called Outreach. Pierre-Yves, do you want to say a few words on this, or?
Yes, very, very quickly, because it's not the most prominent service we offer, but we have a platform that is an outcome of a previous European project called Reach Out. And the objective of Reach Out was helping European research projects emerge and become more usable and visible. So it's typically a beta testing platform where you can provide a beta testing scenario, and then when people have done their testing phase, they can answer to a specific questionnaire about the issues they met, or what can be, I mean, to give a report about how the testing went on. So this is it concerning beta testing, at least.
Thank you. And we also offer to introduce the projects to various standards and foundations that are linked to their projects if they need this connection, such as, for instance, the Eclipse Foundation or Free Software Foundation in Europe, and so on. So this will be customized based on the needs of the projects, of course.
Yes, and this is typically in the mission of OW2, because we are an open source foundation, a rather technical one in Europe. We do the same kind of work than Eclipse or Apache do. But so we have many links with other foundations and organizations in Europe. So we are clearly in our mission there.
Thank you. We also offer a number of business services. So we have the market readiness levels, also from OW2.
Yes, and so MRL is a technology and a set of methods that OW2 developed 2 years ago, I think. It is used to assess the professional quality level of an open source project. So there are two parts. There is a human part with questionnaires to assess the project ability to execute, if there are tests, if there is a CI/CD, I mean, if there is a roadmap and so on. There is also a marketing assessment concerning, for example, professional support. And the other part is technical. So we gather some technical metrics from the bug tracker, from a Sonar Cube, also some metrics concerning licensing and the way licenses are handled in the source code. So we gather all this and we perform a kind of average calculation, and in the end you obtain a quotation that looks like the NASA TRL. So it's between 1 and 9 according to the professional quality assessment of the project.
We also offer pitch training for open call winners, as well as business modeling and coaching on business development of the projects. And we also have an innovation track where we offer advice on open source licensing, if this is needed, as well as market landscaping and research from Linknovate, looking at an analysis in that area, open science advice from UMU, from Murcia, and then also further on content creation and support for marketing material from FundingBox as well. So rounding this off, I think I'm going to hand over now to Nina, who will talk a little bit more about the submission platform and some of the rules for submitting proposals to NGI Search in the second open call. Nina.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Good. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so before, first things first, most of our successful applicants have carefully read our guide for applicants, as well as our frequently asked questions file that you can find on the website before submitting the application. So please make sure you do the same to get closer to a successful application. Open benefits, as explained a couple of times now. So you will get an opportunity to join the NGI support program with a duration of up to 12 months. You will be able to receive the funding of 50,000 if a natural person, or 150,000 if the applicant is applying as an organization. And option to receive these mentoring services that we just explained previously. On the eligibility, so we are calling for individuals or organizations looking to change the way users search and discover on the internet within the European values of openness and privacy and trust in mind, of course. We are we're calling both for natural persons and organizations, and we also accept consortia of both of those things, so natural persons and consortia of organizations, and so on. The limit is three members per team. The maximum funding per project of 150 cannot be exceeded. That's the important info here. So no matter the size and the composition of the project or the applicant, The upper funding limit is 50,000 per nature person. And so no matter if they apply independently or within a consortium or across several consortia. There are 4 stages of evaluation process, which is eligibility check, minimum quality criteria, external evaluation, and consensus meeting. All these are very well described in the guide for applicants that can be found on the website, on the microsite, the OpenCall microsite. Finally, if you, of course, get selected, you will be signing the sub-grant agreement. That's the final step before the kickoff. And by signing the grant agreement, the beneficiary declares that it meets all the conditions above. Yeah, that's it. You can also see the template of the sub-grant agreement listed on the microsites. Next, please. On the submission, this is very short and very simple. So when you hit the apply button on the OpenCall site, the first thing you need to do, in case you haven't already been applying to our previous OpenCalls, you will need to create a FundingBox user account, and then you will be able to start with your application. Next, please. So as you can see, each field is compulsory to fill out. The submit button will only appear when you fill out all the fields in the form on the left side. You will be able to export your application as a PDF, but only before the submission. So once you submitted it, this feature won't be possible. We are working on this. And you can also delete it. The process is fully online. There is no paperwork at this point. Yeah, important here is you can submit only one proposal per project. So if more than one is identified by the same team leader for the same project, only the first one that has been created will be evaluated. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, next, please. I mean, we are here to support you. So whenever you need us, there's a dedicated email where you can write to us. And there's a help desk within the NGI online community that we have on the platform, on the FundingBox platform. We have a dedicated, like a space only for NGI Search project where you can raise your questions, and project partners will get back to you as soon as possible with the answers. And here are some tips so you can add a contributor to your application. Please make sure to submit your application a little bit before the deadline, not the last minute. Fill out all the fields, and like I said, only the first proposal that has been submitted by the same user for the same project will be evaluated. And you can edit the application until the deadline. So even after the submission, if it's before the deadline, you can still make changes. And yeah, that's it. That's it, I think. If I missed something, I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. I think maybe if you could post, Nina, if you could post a link of the micro.
Yes, I will. I will do it right now. I was about to. Thanks.
So is it possible to know so we'll get to the questions in a minute. This is an extremely important slide. It looks extremely boring, but this is a very important slide, and it connects to Nina's first slide, which was about the 4 stages of the evaluation. And the minimum quality criteria, so this MQC as we refer to, is actually the first hurdle that you need to pass after you submit a full proposal. But before we get there, I want to just mention conflict of interest is an immensely important topic for us. We want to be sure that we have no conflict of interest in any of the applicants with the consortium partners. We can't remove any of the consortium partners, and we take conflict of interest very strict. So if you have projects together with some of the project partners or relations also on, this will be automatically excluding you from the process in NGI Search. And if you're in doubt, please just talk to your closest contact and discuss it through and see if that is a conflict of interest or not, or ask in the plenum. Minimum quality criteria is the first hurdle that you then need to pass, where we as a project evaluate certain points. So the first point that we evaluate, and this is a must, is if your project is an open source project or not. Open source projects doesn't mean that you stuff everything into an open repository. That's the bare minimum. But that you also have planned or are using an appropriate open source license, and that you show evidence that your open source project is also meaningful in a wider context of projects. The notion of open core, I can just see popping up here, still exists. However, all of the development that you do inside NGI Search has to be open source. So you cannot develop outside of your open core in NGI Search, but you can make plans in the future to have certain algorithms or added value services that you have on top of your open core as closed source. And we would like it that you disclose that in a meaningful way. So the first hurdle is open source. We do support new projects as well as existing projects. So if you have an existing open source project, that's perfectly fine. We like it. If you can show us what it is, that's excellent. But we also allow for people that have new ideas and want to start them up. But please make that very clear and appropriate, what your plans are on open source, where the project will be located in terms of its repositories, which licenses you would like to use or think about using, which communities you will be addressing, and so on. It's a lot harder probably to start totally new projects than build on existing projects, but we do allow both to be under this category. Secondly, so this was A1, that's a must. Secondly, you have to address one of the Bs, either B1 or B2 or both, but you have to address one of them. And they're here to allow you to be either a new or an existing project. So if you're an existing project, we expect you that you, for instance, have B1. So you have some working code, you can show some demonstration in some form or another. So you have some deployable code somewhere sitting, and we can click on a link and see a demo of it, or some documentation or use or something like that. That's B1. B2 is a little bit weaker in terms of that it just shows which community is contributing to. Are there relative standards that you contribute to? Are there larger communities that you're contributing to? Is there already a working solution, or have you got a solid track record in a community that you operate in? So this is a little bit more ephemeral, but it points very much into who are you working with, who are you delivering this for, and so on. And then part of the MQC, we also have the topic which is scope. So we have these specific topics that that Aurora has presented, as well as our final topic, which is a lot broader. Please indicate which topic you are addressing. We don't have a specific fund for each one of the topics. We assess them all in one pool, but it helps us if you point us in the direction under which topic you are applying, to also sort of relate that back into the scope, of course. And the final point here is supporting document. We've had some issues where people submit very elaborate supporting documents. We do not, deliberately, we do not want to have elaborate supporting documents, because we often have applicants that are not necessarily very experienced in terms of applying for funding. Some of the applicants that we have in our open calls are applying for funding for the very first time. So deliberately, we have an entire form process, an online form process, so that we're looking at content over form. And the supporting document is just that. If you cannot encode it in a web form, so pure text, like if you want to show a table of your budget, or if you have a specific graph or user interface that you would like to show, or something like this, then you can put in the supporting document a figure and refer to this figure in the web form. That would be our ideal situation. We often get very elaborate text documents or presentations, which we cannot assess, as we assess only the web forms and only what is referred to into the supporting document. We do not put focus on the supporting document. Very important points to consider, please. So this leads us to the last point. Here are also the links to the microsite and our main website for ngisearch.eu. The call closes on the 1st of January at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.